Morning ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so it's a while since I've done an engine video. Reason being is that I've been waiting on parts coming and I've not been able to do anything until the parts came. Unfortunately, I'd lost a couple of the dowels, the crankcase dowels that go in these holes here. I'd put in these dowels here, but these are actually for engine cases. They're not the right ones. They need to come out again. I also needed the metal seal that goes in this groove here, which I seem to manage to lose somehow, or at least I lost one of them. There's two, one goes in the top side and one goes in the bottom kind of thing. Excuse me, so I'd ordered these parts off Doble Motorcycles down south, and they had to get one of them from Japan, I think, by airmail or something, whatever, I don't know. But they were taking quite some time to come, so that's why I've not seen any engine videos for a while. But they've now come. They came in the post yesterday. Well, they came by courier actually, quite late on yesterday. And excuse me, here they are. Right, so we've got a small dowel and another small dowel, two the same, and they go in there, which I'm just about to do. And this important seal thing here, which is basically like a semicircular steel kind of washer type thing. It's not really a washer, it's, I don't know how you describe it. It's called like a 68mm, I don't know, a part or something or other. So what it does is it goes in this groove here, and it basically stops the oil from working its way through here. On the other side it goes into that groove there, and like when you put the engine cases together, it should just kind of seal everything up. Right, so basically that's it. So I'm now kind of at the stage where I've got no excuse, no reason to procrastinate any further, so I'm actually going to have to like put this thing together. So that's what I'm going to do now. Okay, so I've put the dowels in. There's a dowel in there and a dowel in there. The big dowels are in, so they're all ready to go. And what I've done is I've used a wee bit of my tub of engine oil, clean engine oil. Just spread a bit on the new bearings. These are the new bearing shells here. Just spread a bit on there with my finger. Spread a wee bit on these bearings here. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. Everything's clean. Everything's oiled. Dowels are in. Oh yeah, this seal here, as you can see, I've put that in its place. It's sitting in the groove, so when it goes together it'll go into there, hopefully. It'll probably take quite a lot of jiggling to get it all together, but we'll see how it goes. Right, so then what I've got is this stuff. Vital Red RTV silicone gasket maker. There's no actual gasket. You don't put any actual gasket between the crankcases because they press together too close. They're like a really perfect fit. Like closer than the stones on an Aztec pyramid. So right, so basically the RTV sealant is going to go on here because this is an outside surface. It's not going to go on there, any of these, because they're all inside surfaces, because the engine cases go over the outside here kind of thing. Excuse me. These bits here, because this is next to where the water pump and the sprocket and stuff go, so that bit will need to get sealed. So basically anything that had RTV on it before is going to have RTV on it now. It says on the instructions you just put it on one side, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on this side, because if I put it on that side I'm probably going to get a bit on the gears and the crank and all that, and I don't want to get those things messy, so I'm just going to put it on this side, okay? Right, luckily the Haynes manual has come to the rescue. Okay, this photo here, it doesn't really explain it properly in the text in a way that kind of tells you how to position it, but this photo here is captioned "Locate the left fork in its shift drum groove and slide the shaft into position." Okay, now this is the first one. Wait a second. That doesn't look right. Oh, they're sliding the shaft in from the other end. Okay, that's what's confusing me. Right, okay, so there's the shaft. Okay, they're putting that fork in there, and you can see the drum is in not exactly that position. It's in, well, basically it's got the three holes visible. Okay, so there's 1, 2 and 3 holes, and here you've got 1, 2 and 3 holes. Okay, so that's, and there's only one place on the drum that's got 3 holes. All the way around there are holes like this, like there for example, but there's only one place that there's 3. Okay, so that must be the correct position there that they're showing you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and put the 2 halves together now, and then right, finally I've got it together. Okay, so I did have the cases together, and then I basically couldn't get the shaft to go through the selector fork shaft. It just wasn't going through. I basically wasn't managing to position the ends of the forks to get it to go through. It just wasn't happening. So so what I did was I split the crankcases again, took them apart, put the shaft through the forks, and then jiggled about with it and got it to go back together again, and it is actually together at this point. It is in neutral. If I turn this shaft, you can see the other one's not turning, so that is neutral, and I'm pretty sure the selector drum was in the neutral position, according to the photo in the Haynes. If it isn't, obviously it's the bike's not going to kind of work. Well, the gearbox is not going to work, but I'm pretty sure it was right. So yeah, okay, so that's it together. So basically the bolts just need to be put in now and tightened down, so that's the next thing. Alright, so far so good. So crankcase is back together, and some of the bolts in. These are some of the top side bolts. None of these bolts are actually torqued at this stage. They're just basically kind of put in and just kind of nipped up, you know, just ever so slightly tightened. So obviously the bolts from the underside are put in first, like these the main crankcase bolts there and there. You can just see the heads. So I put those in, and then I put on all various other bolts from underneath. I don't think you can really see any of the others with it this way up, but there are kind of various bolts that went in, or like along the front, for example, like that one there, for example. And then what I did was I turned it over, and then I've put in all these bolts. So you've got these 4 big meaty bolts where the swing arm goes through. That's where the swing arm mounts. There's another one there actually, another kind of big meaty sort of bolt that goes down just that side of the main bearing where the sprocket mounts. So yeah, and then all these kind of smaller bolts. What I found was I hadn't labelled the bolts, but some were longer than others. Like some were maybe, I don't know, like a couple of inches, and some were maybe 3 inches. That one there, for example, was very long. That was probably about 4 inches. But you can work out which bolt goes where from looking at it from the outside. Like for example, that one there, you can see that the end of the bolt goes down there. So if you hold the bolt up to the outside of it, it's obvious which length of bolt goes there. And then some of these, like that one for example, it's obvious that that's kind of a much longer kind of bolt than the rest. And then when you get left to the longest, then it's kind of, well, that one actually has an arrow pointing to it, which is a clue that it's kind of like a different bolt. So So basically managed to get them all in, and kind of just done up a wee bit. So what I'm going to have to do next is I'm going to turn the whole thing over and torque the crank bolts, and then torque all the rest of the bolts, and after that it's kind of ready to start building up again. So I'm kind of getting somewhere, but I think that'll be it for this video. Probably the next video will probably be mounting the cylinder heads. That'll be the next thing that I do, but it'll have to come off the workbench for that, because it's getting quite heavy at this stage now that the crankcases are back together. Let me just get a hold of that. Oops. I mean, you can rock it from like that, but it's too heavy really to lift. It'll be too heavy to lift it off the bench when it's got the cylinder heads on. To be honest, I think I'm probably going to struggle to lift it off there as it is. But so what I'll do basically is, once I finish torquing the bolts up, then I'll lift it and I'll put it back on the engine stand. And once it's back on the engine stand, then we can start the rest of the build up, putting the cylinder heads on, and then putting the cams in, and so on and so forth. Alright, that's great. Thanks very much for watching.